Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 10. So Module 10 is the next module for your comparison essay. Remember, this essay we're using multiple modules in order to complete it. For this one, you're actually going to be submitting a rough draft. So the idea is that you'll spend this week really working on creating a good draft of your essay, and you're going to submit it to me for feedback. So the first person you'll get feedback from is me. In the next module, you'll be submitting that same draft to your peers and to the online writing lab for additional feedback. So we're going to make sure that you have your draft ready in this module in order to be able to send it in and get feedback in the next module. So you can see that you've got a couple of assignments here. The other thing that we're doing is a self-edit of your essay, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this is the submission spot for your actual draft. And then the other thing that you'll be doing is taking another quiz over editing, which I'll also talk about. So a couple of things just as a reminder. So the essay itself, you want to get started on drafting based on your information that you provided in the pre-writing journal, which was 2 modules ago. You had some ideas for your essay. You want to make sure that you look at that feedback and use that to start drafting a good draft of your essay. Don't forget a couple of things. First of all, this is a comparison essay. It's not a pro-con essay, and it's not an argument essay. So that's typically where students deviate from the assignment, is they try to argue that one is better than the other, or they go over like negatives and positives of the 2 subjects. Instead, you want to focus on similarities and differences. How are these similar? How are they different? For similarities and differences, you need to choose one as the focus of your essay. So either you're going to have more similarities that are discussed or more differences. You will cover both in your essay, however, because no 2 things are exactly the same. So you're going to have both similarities and differences, but the overall topics in those body paragraphs need to emphasize either similarities or differences. So it's something to kind of think about, is what would be best for your reader, which would make the more interesting comparison. So if you have 2 things that are very similar, I would mostly focus on differences. If you have 2 things that seem very different, I would mostly focus on similarities. Also make sure as you write that you are using point-by-point comparison. Typically that's the big mistake that's made in as far as content is concerned, where students want to cover like one paragraph about one topic, and then the next paragraph is about the next topic, and then you would go kind of back and forth like that. You want to make sure that your paragraphs themselves discuss both subjects within them. So your first paragraph is going to be about the history of the topics, and we'll cover subject A and subject B within the paragraph. Don't forget about the citation requirement: at least 2 sources, at least 1 quote, at least 1 paraphrase. Those are minimum. So you should have more, but there's a minimum. I would get them in the rough draft so that I can give you feedback on it if you need help. Then you have a couple of things in here to help you out. This is just information about like writing comparison essays. I've got my instructor video in here that takes you step by step about through writing a comparison essay. I've got some PowerPoints for you. I've got some samples for you. So lots of stuff in here to help you out just with, how to approach it and that kind of thing. Then you're going to actually write the rough draft. You're going to do 2 things with the rough draft. The first is to actually submit it to me. And so that's going to be here at this submission spot. You want at least 2 full pages, making sure you have the introduction, the thesis, the body paragraphs, at least 3 body paragraphs, the conclusion, the works cited page with your sources. Make sure that you're using sources in your rough draft. I see this a lot. Students will write their entire essay and then go back through and try to squeeze sources in there. And if you have an essay where sources are required, you should always have those sources in mind first and be thinking about them as you write your draft. So be dropping in, even if the citations aren't exactly correct, go ahead and put in reminders of, I use this source here, I use this source here, because if you don't, it may be a week or more before you take that rough draft to turn it into a final draft. you're going to forget, and you don't want to be accused of plagiarizing something because you used it incorrectly. The self-edit is part of our outcomes for the class, making sure that you are editing your own work, critiquing your own work. So once you have a draft done, you go ahead and submit it, and then you'll complete a self-edit. The self-edit is just to answer questions. These questions are on page 41 in Rules for Writers, and they are in 5 categories. And I want you to answer each question. It needs to be more than yes or no. Because if you just give me, a list of 10 or whatever yeses, that does not help. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know whether or not you actually looked at the question. So I want you to actually write out your response to each one, and you can see the requirements, bulleted list, complete sentences and phrases, and specific and relevant to your essay. And most importantly, has to be critical. I want you to give yourself things to work on. If you don't give yourself critique, then I'm going to assume that you didn't actually take the assignment seriously, or you didn't actually read through your own essay. Everybody's rough draft has plenty of areas where they could improve. This is your chance to give yourself somewhere to go. So once you finish that, you've got your draft submitted, you've self-edited. You also have the last assignment in this module. It should not take you very long, but you definitely want to leave yourself some time. It's an editing quiz, and the purpose of this assignment is just to help you get more practice with identifying where the error is. So there are 15 questions they pull from a pool, and basically what it is you get each question is, what is the word that's an issue in this sentence, or something like that, and you have to identify which one it is that's giving the sentence a problem. So you have to figure out which word it is that's the problematic one, and that there are various reasons why it might be an issue, but they're all under that editing for grammar readings. A lot of those are very common issues in student writing, and so you don't necessarily have to know the name of the issue. So you don't have to know the name of the grammar rule that is being violated there, but you do want to be able to identify it. And that's one of the harder parts of just doing writing in general, is being able to see the errors on the page, whether it's your own writing or your peers' writing, not necessarily, figuring out exactly what it is, like what it's called, but being able to identify that word is an error that needs to be changed, and then of course eventually learning how to change it. So that's just to give you more practice with that. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. If you're having any trouble with anything, please reach out, and then otherwise have a great week.